right in front.
That's where he likes him,
Yes,
Jimmy.
that's where he likes him, and he likes the sun on his back, and he's had a haircut for the big job this afternoon, Peter.
Well, it wouldn't match yours, Jim.
Yeah.
3 gone, 1 to go. Let's climb the mountain again, eh? Come on. Quarter by quarter, ball by ball. A game of footy's like building a house, isn't it? Brick by brick.
I could rant and rave. But I realised today that I'm coaching a shit football team.
All right, we are back for another episode of the Bring Your Boots Footy podcast. With me today, the only camera that's working at the moment, we'll should get onto that. Brent Sheridan from the WA Country Footy or Country Footy WA. But what's your actual title?
Job title.
Yeah, just so I have to be a bit closer to that.
Sorry,
Mike.
job title. Country competitions manager.
Yep. Okay. And you've been there ages now.
I think this is. I like to talk in footy seasons. It's a bit easier to navigate. I think this is my 10th season back in footy. So, yeah, with WA Country Footy League now, Country Footy WA. Coming up on I think 10 years officially early next year.
Yeah. Right. Do you get long service leave or anything for that?
I think so. I hope so.
Yeah, all right. Well, yeah, the purposes of this one, I guess, is just to sort of we'll recap the Southern Colts Carnival and then look forward to the Nutrient Ag Footy Carnival, which is Sunday Arvo now, and that kicks off Friday morning. Probably Thursday for you, is it?
Yeah, our Thursday kick-off. Colts kick off on Thursday, CBH Colts division. So,
you got anything before that then? Wednesday, like you obviously got
just
stuff.
prepping. Yeah, it's a busy few days. Our teams and the deadlines for getting team lists in for the budget, all of that sort of stuff. That really kicks into gear from first thing tomorrow morning. So me and the team, the team I should say, we'll be flat out getting everything ready to go.
Sweet. All right, mate. Let's. Where's country footy at for you? Like, I guess, doing this thing, floating around to these leagues, it just seems like all the leagues are actually going pretty decent. Like, it's the numbers and the things that are pretty prominent in every league, just with officials and stuff. But like that aside, is country footy pretty healthy?
I generally think so. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what I've learned in my time in country footy is that it's pretty hard to fit every part of our state geographically in the same box, same four walls in regards to how everything's tracking. So, we know the challenges in rural WA with population reducing in a lot of our more agricultural regions. So, our leagues and clubs within those, a lot of the clubs that I know you've spoken to, your Queridings, your Hyde and Calgarans, your Ben Cubbins, they do such an amazing job in the communities just to keep on keeping on, basically.
That's crazy, eh?
The role that footy, and not just footy, but community sport has in general in those communities, it just brings a level of vibrancy that we see when it doesn't exist, those communities die pretty quickly. So generally really healthy, and then in other parts of the state we have other challenges. So we have from a football context. In our larger regional centres, we've got challenges finding enough green space at times to fit everybody in. We've obviously got challenges from other sports, which is a really healthy thing. Vying for competitors at all age groups to come and play what we think is the best game. But the fact that there is competition is a really healthy thing for kids to grow up and have a choice of what they want to play. So we're really doing everything we can to make sure that whether you live in Mckain or you live in Albany or you live in Halls Creek, you have an opportunity to play footy, really, at every age group.
Just off the top of my head, what about, do you guys actually have anything to do with, like that Balgo League, like that Central Districts? Like, it'd be really hard to have anything to, like, hands-on with it. But do you guys control that, or do those communities out in the desert, like out near, what is that called, the Central Desert League?
Yeah, so there's a few different things. So through the Kimberley, you'd be aware, we've obviously spent time in Kununurra and Derby. There's the East Kimberley, Central Kimberley, West Kimberley Senior Footy Leagues, and there's a couple of junior leagues as well in West Kimberley Juniors and Kununurra. The last couple of years, whilst there hasn't been footy in Halls Creek, we're edging closer to that returning, but that's going to be in its own Southeast Kimberley Football League. So a new footy league will be established. In terms of the more remote community stuff, we don't have a lot of engagement with that. There are a number of third-party sort of service providers like Nurukajunka through the Pilbara region that do a lot of stuff in the Western Desert. And
Gandawa.
Gandua
Yeah,
through the
okay.
Kimberley.
Okay.
Theirs is probably a little bit more talent focused, and they
Okay.
do. They're a partner of ours, and we do some stuff in and around Auskick and entry level stuff with Gandua. So yeah, we depending upon where you are, our aim really is to have an avenue to play footy.
Yep.
And that looks different. Like I said, whether you live in the rural agricultural belt of the state, or you live in the red dirt in the Pilbara.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it then when you were talking about like agriculture, and I remember going out there there was like a footy carnival in Balgo, and it was like Kintor, Yuendamu, all like traveling 1,500 k's on a dirt road to come to one like place like 5 hours southeast of Halls Creek to play on a dirt oval, and I was like, that would be logistically a nightmare. And I have no idea who would actually run that, but that must be. Do you have anything? Do you know who does that?
Not those remote carnivals.
Yeah, they're
specifically.
wild.
The communities are pretty powerful out there in terms of what they're able to achieve. I mean, a great, a couple of great guests for your podcast. Like we have everywhere in the state and have done forever. There are characters at the heart of footy and footy clubs and footy leagues, and a couple of gents in the Kimberley, Wayne Paul in the east, and Jeff Davis in central have been. Some of the stories I'm sure they'd be able to tell around getting footy on the park each and every week, just giving people the avenue to have a kick is amazing. So to spend any time with those sort of guys, and like I said, that's magnified everywhere, but they are, what the communities are able to achieve in the remote parts of WA just to have a kick is truly incredible.
Yeah.
And I've referenced that a little bit to some of our other leagues in other parts where at times we get really hung up on the little things.
Yeah.
To say, well, hang on, like, that's great and we need to make sure we're compliant and everything like that. But just to get a game on the field in other parts of the country is what they go through is amazing. Do
you know who has the biggest commute in country footy, like town to town? Who do you reckon that would be?
Well, part of the reason why it would have been in the East Kimberley Footy League.
Yeah, Halls Creek to Timber Creek, maybe?
Well, it's a couple of those communities that live 2 or 3 hours outside of Halls Creek going up to Wyndham to play, for example, and back. Like, that's crazy. That's a 7 hour.
Yeah. I'm just quickly Googling.
6 or 7 hour one-way trip. I think Coolin to Southern Cross is about a 3 hour trip.
Yep.
So that would be right up there. That'd probably be one of the longest ones, I would have thought.
I know when I was in Kununurra, Timber Creek in the Northern Territory were in the league, and I just looked it up, Halls Creek to there is just over 6 hours.
Yeah.
Crazy. And it is crazy. It's every week. Like when Halls Creek play in that Kununurra league, there's like a commute for them every single week. And I know they floated between. No, it's just interested to see where that is because like I said, I also just played for Dongra yesterday. I don't know if you can hear that screaming, but that's my little man.
There's about 5 of them in there.
Yeah, WrestleMania. But yeah, the Dongra Footy League is struggling for numbers and stuff like that, which one of the reasons why I went in there and had a dip with the boys, the Mighty Eagles. But I was thinking how driving through last night, I was thinking how can they not be getting numbers to the games and to the footy, given the demographic that's here. Like the Dongra is huge. Like it is not like a stop on the way. Like I've never really pulled in, but crazy. And then I started reflecting on those country leagues and how far it is, and given like people's financial circumstances and just everything else that goes on in the communities up there, and that they still get around and have a footy carnival every year is pretty epic.
And the other one too, Exmouth to Carnarvon.
Yeah, every week.
They play sort of Exmouth every other week. They're doing that to Carnarvon to play footy, 3-team competition. What people go through, what our communities go through, really is so powerful in being able to provide that outlet, that social, that physical, that mental outlet each and every weekend. It really is crazy.
What about then 3-team leagues? That has to be the smallest league in Australia. Like,
no,
is there a 2-league?
There's a 2-leaguer, mate. Yeah, the Ravensthorpe and Districts Footy Association, absolutely remarkable people.
Yeah.
Down there in Ravensthorpe and Hopetown, they were 3 teams.
Lake King was it?
Lake King,
Lake
King, and they have a winter sport model like a lot of the rural leagues do in WA, where it's football, hockey, netball that all travel together. So. Where Lake King they still go out and play in Lake King, and Lake King still has some of the other sports, I believe. But they don't have footy and haven't had footy for a while. And they sort of joke that they really play one serious game a year, which is obviously the grand final, and that is Dinkum. That is a Dinkum game, I can tell you that. But mate, they love it. Like, yeah, amazing people down there. Rod Dorr, I think I say this to a lot of people. When we talk about rural competitions and the fabric of the people that allow that to happen each and every week, and I think there wouldn't be too many years on the honour board, if any, from probably the 60s or 70s when the association started capturing that data where he's not actually on the honour board as an office bearer of the association.
Yeah, right.
So that's 50 years. Like, it is truly remarkable, mate. So, yeah, and there are stories like that everywhere, like I said before. But, yeah, so there's been a couple of pieces done in the last few years on Ravy, and it is, if anyone sort of in around footy really wants to understand what footy means to the community and to a regional community, head down to Ravy and watch, and just go to a game of footy. Not just Ravy, but any of our other, go your Donga on the weekend. You would have seen netball and hockey as well. Yeah. Just go and immerse yourself in it for a weekend, because it gives you such a different perspective on community sport. The win at all costs sort of mentality really doesn't exist, because it's just being there and playing is that's the win, right?
Yeah.
The 4 points is what it is.
Gets people out of home. It's like not a mandatory social outing, but it's the one thing that the communities can count on every single week to make sure, like, well, we're going there, like, daughter's got netball, little man's got footy, then he's running the water or he's boundary umpire, I'm playing, I'm goal umpire. Like, everyone has a role, then everyone comes together in those club rooms afterwards, hey, and it's like, it's such a big thing. Like, I know Morowa last night had a big function with their sponsor stuff, and everyone stuck around for that. They had a number plate auction. There's people ringing in, commenting on Facebook, trying to buy it and stuff like that. And it's really, really good. Like, I think footy from the places that I've been is in a good spot. Like, even like crowds, like Donga Morowa yesterday, like there was a decent crowd there. There'd be 400 people, I would guess. Like, not quite. I just assumed there'd be a little bit less, but you get there and there's a vibe there to a footy game. Like, and it was a hot game, mate. There was some big hits. Like, both teams really wanted to win. So,
I don't think we're talking about the injury, but I think you can as well. Move on.
Oh well, it did come out. Yeah, mate. I talked about it there. I played 3 games of footy in 5 years. One in 2020, broke my wrist. Then one at the start of the year here, broke a rib. Then I've come back to Donga yesterday, broke the collarbone, so I'm done. Line
through.
Yeah,
take up umpiring, mate. We always need more umpires.
I actually might do that instead of when I go out there and I was trying to do this stuff with the resis or something like that. I'll umpire, run water, or do something like that. Get around there and squirt some people in the face with some water and see what I can do. But I think the actual footy boots have to be hung up. I just can't keep doing this shit. All right, mate. Let's get into it. I love this thing. I think any kid that's ever played in this carnival would as well. It's I always call it Cool and Colts Carnival. I know I've never heard it's called Lake Grace Carnival, but what's the official title for the?
Great Southern Colts Carnival.
Yeah.
So it's run by an organisation called the Great Southern Football Council, incorporated organisation. They're a affiliate member of Country Footy WA, and the Jets there have been. You look at the history; it's been going since 1922, the first carnival. So I think it's, without fact checking this, I'm pretty confident in saying it would be arguably the longest footy carnival, let alone sports carnival in WA, probably the country. Started off as a senior men's carnival in the 1920s, obviously. Has had a couple of pauses through the way for the World War II. COVID, probably a few other breaks in between, and probably about 20 years ago now, I reckon it would have been the early 2000s that it merged from being just a senior carnival to Colts specific.
Okay, well, Colts and seniors together, or they just a straight swap
for 1 or 2 years, maybe.
Okay.
A bit before my time, obviously. But definitely the last 20 years, it's been Colts only. And it rotates between the communities of Coolin and Lake Grace. So they have it on 2-year cycles. And, the last couple of years have been out in Coolin, and the Coolin the broader Coolin community, not just the footy club, just really gets behind it, and it is a fantastic event, as you said. You played and you've helped coach there, I know, and we go down and support it, support the logistics and the comp management side of it, and it is just a fantastic weekend.
How big is it for Coolin and Lake Grace when they get to actually host it? Like, what would the influx of people be? There'd be over 1,000 people.
Well, each team would be bringing in 30 people. You get 8 teams of 30, so about 240, 250 people plus
parents. So maybe 500 or something.
The way that the community is able to put up the teams, they're finding buildings, and kids are bringing swags, obviously, in some cases, and they're able to put everyone up, look after them for the couple of days, feed them all, water them all. It is an amazing show of the power of community, right? And it puts those, every kid that would leave that and their parents would go away having had a really positive experience with the regional community like Coolin.
But it never seems to be there's like local kids in it. Like, is that the case? Like, you don't seem to have a massive representation of people from that area.
In terms of the team, so Coolin this year, for example, they're obviously part of Eastern District's footy league, so there would have been 2 or 3 Coolin kids, I've no doubt, at least. Very strong footballing community, Coolin Condinnon, and very, very strong and successful club over a long period of time. And it's not the only, sorry, just off topic a little bit, but they've also
there's no topics, mate. Just get in it.
They branched into Masters footy the last few years, so they host a Wheat Belt Masters weekend in early part of the year where we're talking about 19-year-olds coming in for the Colts. They're going to turn around and doing that for 39 to 35 plus. They have a Masters coming out there every year. So which again is to be able to provide and put the community on the map like they do is amazing. And Lake Grace does the exact same thing when it's their turn. And one thing you do experience when you go to these communities is the investment that local council makes into their facilities to make it happen. The Fairbarn, I probably pronounce that incorrectly, but the rec centre out there at Coolin is absolutely amazing for a relatively small regional community. Lake Grace is the same when you go there. What they have access to from a facility perspective is awesome, and it's events like this that keep councils really continuing that level of investment, right?
Yeah, I always have spoken to a few people. Is that Brendan Grill's royalties for region? Is that what like all these buildings are for, or is it? Do you know how the funding comes around for that? Because like Coolin's a massive complex for a tiny town. Yeah,
Coolin's is a little bit different. There's a story behind it. If for those listening, the Fairbrand family, I believe, they. I think when they passed, or they may not have passed at the time, but they left a lot of money to the council to be spent on community sport and recreation facilities.
Yeah, right.
And that's been a large driver. But what they do, so the event like they have for the Coolin Colts Carnival, when they host that, all the revenue that they're able to maintain in the community and make from that gets reinvested back into their facilities. Yeah. So that's why they've got 2 full-size AFL ovals pretty much in Super Nick. 2 indoor netball, basketball courts, everything at the one spot, bowling club. Yeah, it is amazing. And that's the royalties for region that you allude to. That has been a real catalyst in a lot of other regional communities for investing in sport and recreation infrastructure. And it is really awesome what you go out and can see. Pingelly, I know you've booked in Pingelly. The Pingelly pavilion down there is absolutely amazing. I was at Katanninga this year, and this wasn't part of royalties for region, but they've just resurfaced their whole, or had their playing surface redone after probably 35 years since it was initially done or redone.
Yeah, right.
So, and it's amazing. So, we're very lucky in particularly our rural parts of WA that the sporting level of facility we have is really remarkable for our players and communities to enjoy. And our regional centres are just as lucky. The facilities in Albany are truly amazing now with Retrovision Stadium and Hands Oval.
In Bunbury there.
Bunbury coming on board. There's only, it's the only venue in WA outside of Optus Stadium that is capable of hosting an AFL match at this point in time, in-season match. So that's pretty amazing.
And what about the carnival this year? Obviously, Peel beat the Great Southern Storm by about 35 points there. Having a look at that. I'm not really keen to get massively into the details, but did you get there for the carnival?
Yeah, I was down there, mate.
Any names or sort of performances jump out at you?
Yeah, as with all these carnivals, I generally don't spend too much time actually watching.
You're behind the
footy.
scenes.
You're helping obviously the volunteers and stakeholders. But a young kid who won the medal in the grand final, I think he was a 15, 16-year-old.
Yeah, right.
Ruckman Trent Robertson, don't care me of that. He won out of the bag. Tall. Obviously playing in the ruck at that age.
Yep.
Definitely one to watch. But yeah, it was one of the last couple of years have been incredibly competitive. The carnival will probably, obviously, when you look at across a community like or a region like Peel, Football Netball League, what they're drawing from population-wise, and you look at Albany, the same, Burst, then Ongerup and Eastern Districts. The gap for a while there was probably starting to separate, but to the council's credit and all of the league's credit, they buy in, they work incredibly well together. They've looked at how they can, tinker with the rules and the qualification per team to help create a more even competition and equal competition. And this year Eastern Districts were within probably 10 seconds of actually upsetting Peel in the first game. And if they had have done that, I think if they had done that, then it would have thrown the cat right amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, I can't remember the young fella's name. Maybe Tyler James from Hyden, one of the James boys. Yeah, he was talking about how it's like a dribble kick with like 15 seconds to go, and if they don't get that, mate, this is that noise I was telling you about. We hear it in the mics here, but the software cuts it out, so just don't go too hard with your yelling. But yeah, the Wicked Carnival. Is there any other leagues like you want to jump in on that carnival? Like, when you spoke to me earlier and a couple of weeks ago, I was saying you were talking about like Central Desert, like teams that put stuff into Landmark and stuff like that. But it made me think like that Wonka for Caps at one stage. I think like they were contributing significantly. Is there?
Clontarf used to have a team in the carnival.
Is there anything you're looking at trying to get back into that carnival or?
Yeah, I think it's pretty. I don't want to talk for the the football counts, Great Southern Footy Council.
Okay, yep.
But I think they'd probably sit here and say that 8 teams is about the maximum.
Okay.
Just in terms of what you can put on during the day. So the games are playing from 9 o'clock to pretty much 5:30.
Yeah, and it's always dewy, hey?
Yeah, it's an early morning.
Yeah.
Kicking the dew off literally in the morning. So I think the carnival at the moment is pretty full. There used to be a Northern Regions Colts Carnival as well for a few years, and that fed into the Northern Suns team that played in the Colts at the Country Champs.
Yep.
That included Central Midlands, North Midlands, Avon, Mortlock and Great Northern. That's fallen by the wayside now as some of those leagues have got smaller, and Great Northern have sent their own Colts team now to Country Champs. So there is a Kimberley Colts Carnival that happens annually.
Yeah, is that still in Fitzroy?
It rotates, I believe.
Okay, they're swapping it around.
Yeah, but now that Kimberley Spirit are back in Country Champs, they've been back for 2 or 3 years now in the Colts, which is amazing. That carnival feeds into that, so which is awesome. Yeah,
that Kimberley Spirit, like maybe probably coincided with that sort of era where they were drafting kids regularly from there. Was it Clint Benjamin, sort of that sort of era, Zeph Skinner, all of those sort of fellas. That probably sent like Southwest and that, you just know they'll be good, and it doesn't really phase you. But when the Spirit came down and they were decent, it sent shivers down your spine because genuinely you could not do anything. Some of them boys were faster. They'll jump on your head. Like the skills were unbelievable, and if they're on, you just can't beat them no matter what you do. So yeah, the Kimberley Spirit, that's awesome that they're back. But are they a powerhouse or how are they shaping up? Do you know?
So they're in Division 2 this year in our Colts. So by their own admission, last year they probably weren't as strong as they have been.
Yep.
They, to your point just now, I think it was about 2011 that they won A section Colts.
Yep.
Beating Southwest, and from memory that was an absolute thriller of a game. And to that point, the footy they played is truly remarkable. So to have them back in our competition the last 2 or 3 years it just adds a different layer of vibrancy that we just don't get, and the experience for those 25 to 30 players to come down to Perth and for a week. They obviously spend a bit more time down in some of our other leagues. Probably much different weather, much different ovals. I could only imagine the sort of different climate and experience it would provide them. So, in terms of like I said, our Colts competition this year has split into 2 divisions, and we haven't. It's the first time since I think 2010 we've had 2 divisions in our Colts, which is awesome.
Healthy,
really healthy. West Pilbara Junior Footy League have come back into the competition this year. Pilbara have been in and out for a few years, but with 8 teams, we took the opportunity to split into 2 divisions this year. So Kimberley and regional districts join Avon, Mortlock and West Pilbara in that 2nd division.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. Like, because the Great Southern Storm, obviously when the Spirit weren't playing, that they would take a few kids based out of that carnival, and when Glyn was the coach of that, we used to pipe dream about getting up to that carnival in the Kimberley, and we're like, it would just be some of the most lightning football you would ever see. Just huge runs down the wing, big pack marks. It'd be an epic little carnival to get to.
Oh, absolutely, it would. Yeah, unfortunately this year I think it fell the same weekend as Great Southern. So it is. Like, it's just different footy. You having lived and played and worked up in the Kimberley, the brand of footy like it is if you go to the Wheat Belt, it's a different brand of footy like it is if you go to Southwest.
It is weird, hey? It's not the same. It's different everywhere. And it's a notable difference.
It is 100%. It's a notable difference.
And then I want to ask you this as well. Do you, with these carnivals, like, do you ever get to actually enjoy the carnivals? Like, obviously, I know how much work you do to get them up and running. Like, and then there doesn't seem to be a point where it's like, okay, my job's done. Let me watch some footy. Like, do you ever get to enjoy the carnivals, or is it, all right, that's done, pack that up, all right, now I'm straight on to the next thing?
It's a busy few days. I like to think as a collective of staff and that we'll sit back and reflect and to a little point, and hopefully pat ourselves on the back on the job well done. There are always, as with any sort of responsible body for organising an event like that, there are always a list of 1,000 things that we could always think. But my view is if they're only things that we observe and we're not getting that from the general member of the public or the teams, then it's generally a job reasonably well done. And to me, when you get leagues or administrators that'll send you a text, or you see some of the players in their post-match interviews and that are just that laud the carnival and the experience, and that's what makes it worth it.
Yeah, I also think maybe those kids, even if they don't appreciate how good it is until a few years later, and then oh man, that carnival's that good. And then the last one, just on the cop, why is it the Great Southern 20, not the 22? Do you know?
I would think it's a tradition, mate. I'll be a throwback to when teams were rolling with 20 players. You had 18 on the field and 2 on the bench, and they didn't come on until there was an injury, basically. So it's just a historic thing. It's always been a Great Southern 20. So they continue it to be a Great Southern 20.
And then, obviously moving forward to the Nutrien Ag Solutions Country Footy Championships, how much, if you had to put like a percentage of it, what this carnival, how much of a percentage does it take up of like your work?
This time of the year, a lot. By probably explanation, not me personally necessarily, but Kelly and Zoe and the rest of our team internally takes up quite a bit, from probably the start of last week, leading through it. I'd hate to put a number on it because we obviously have leagues that are still playing and we play a role in supporting them week in and week out from a process and a comp management perspective, but it definitely does ramp up. And but it peaks and troughs throughout the year. Like we have some real, around everything from securing venues that starts in as soon as the waffle fixtures drop, basically annually we'll start to work with our waffle sub. So it comes from a long way out, but it's a bit of a drip feed for a while. And then once we get venues locked in and we get our team nominations in, then we start to really mould what it looks like. And probably one of the key focuses that we've had this year is what we provide to our leagues by way of educate, just bringing them up to speed, because a lot of the people that come and support our leagues from a coaching, team management perspective, they probably don't deal with our league and club match day processes week in, week out. Yeah. So, we want to keep that at a really high standard, but we're also mindful that if people don't know, they don't know. So we try to take a real proactive role in educating them ahead of the championship, so it just runs as seamlessly as possible.
I'm not sure if I'm in a little vacuum here and getting to all these different leagues if the hype around this carnival's just me internally or like, but everyone I speak to, it seems like everyone's really excited to see how these teams go head to head. Like, and I've said it heaps. Division 2, these are most of the leagues I've been to, but like the Div 2 competition is going to be tooth and nail. Like, uppers are obviously going to send a really strong side, but do you feel like it's like really going to be a big carnival and like lots of people are really excited for it?
Oh, yeah, I think so. It's been a real, touched off the top of the pod that I've been here about 10 years, 10 seasons now, and so that's basically 10 years of championships along the way with a couple of breaks for COVID. But since COVID, before COVID, I think our men's got down to about 12 teams. We had 5 Colts teams, so numbers were draining a little bit, and probably the level of interest was draining a bit. Since COVID, we've seen a massive upturn in the level of interest in the champs. So last year we had 17 men's teams. The year before, I think we were looking at 18 men's teams. So a couple of those have dropped off. Some of our smaller leagues like Gascoigne and Onshore Cup have dropped off since, and unfortunately Hills had to withdraw this year. But we've still got 16 men's teams, which is awesome. That's really, really healthy. And then our Colts is up to 8 teams. Again, we had 5 teams for a number of years there. So for us, we've seen a real level of interest in coming and being part and providing probably a point of difference to the every weekend cycle of footy is. And COVID might have, that they've not been able to do it for a couple of years, might have given it the shot in the arm that we needed in that regard. But the same, I think stuff like the social media presence and promotion through the championships and some of the content that Zoe's leading in a part of our team and getting out there is really remarkable, and just capturing what the champs is and that experience and then selling that. And on top of that, all of our games now are live streamed annually. So whilst people can't always come and attend, they can still tune in on their laptop, on their TV, on their phone, and watch their brother, sister, husband, mate at the club play every weekend, right? Which is pretty cool. And
everyone does. I watch that all the time. I watch that. It's sort of, you think, like live stream, but you look at the numbers. The numbers are always decent. Like everyone, even the people that might not want to go to it or whatever, like who are sitting at home and not having a footy off, the TV goes on and YouTube goes on. Like those numbers must be pretty decent.
Yeah, they're good. I wish I could quote you some. I'm not that sort of familiar in that back end stuff, but absolutely, mate. I unfortunately came down with COVID last year, the day before the
That's right.
So I was stuck in the back room here at the Folks for a few days, and probably annoying the bejesus out of my team, sending them messages around this, that, and fix this signage and whatnot. Yeah, because I was stuck in bed watching it on the stream. But that gave me probably a greater appreciation of the important role of actually making our champs accessible, and in today's day and age, it's not just around being able to get to the ground, because it's everyone's so spread far and wide from a family and friends perspective, that the ability for anyone to tune in anywhere in the world and watch their loved ones play at a higher level, right, is pretty cool.
Yeah, mate. Just something I want to touch on. You spoke about where you got to wait for like that waffle fixture to come out. Obviously got a little bit of more of an insight knowing you, but I know like the Country Footy WA would want everyone to play on Optus Stadium if they could. How hard is it for you guys to even secure ovals for this carnival for teams to get on? Like, is that one of the biggest issues you face?
Oh, well, hands down. Yeah, hands down. Other than the teams themselves logistically being able to get there and have the numbers to come forth, that's a challenge that always exists for us, purely from a Country Footy WA perspective. Logistically, getting access to venues is our biggest challenge, and we've been incredibly grateful and lucky over a long period of time that our waffle clubs and the waffle itself through WA Footy have been really supportive of the country championships, and we work hard to get ideally a general buy, or at worst a split round in the waffle regular season to allow us to have access to some ovals. And generally our waffle clubs would love to have us, but we appreciate that in 2025, they don't just have reserves league and Colts running around anymore. Obviously, with the advent and the growth of Waffle W and the Rogers Cup, Waffle grounds are under the heat, mate. They're under the pump each and every week, like a lot of community venues. So, it's tipping it down at the moment out there from a wet weather perspective, and has been for a few weeks. So those ovals cop a fair bit of whack. So we certainly appreciate that having 2 days or a day of country championships in the middle of July on your venues is not going to leave it in better nick. So that's the balance for the Waffle clubs, and it's a challenge for us, and we'll keep navigating that. And we've always had an approach to want to play at Waffle venues, and that's always going to be our desire. State League venues, Premier venues, the pathway venue for the young boy or girl in regional WA. If they're going to make it, they're going to end up coming through and playing at these great facilities. That's always going to be our aim, but I think we're becoming a lot more exploratory in where and when we do our fixturing. We played some night games last year. This year, we're aligning ahead of West Perth and West Coast Waffle League game on the Saturday. Our Div 3 will be leading into that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, right. That's awesome.
And we have done that in the past with Perth and West Coast as well. Some of their Waffle fixturing, so that's really cool. We're playing some of our Colts footy this year at PSA schools, so private schools.
Yeah, I've seen
Perth. And that's the first foray that we've made into this space, so that's going to be a real learning curve for us. It does present some challenges because of the ability to charge a gate, which for us to continue to put on the championships, there is obviously a cost. It doesn't just happen. So that's going to be a really interesting learning curve for us to understand the dollars and cents between not being able to charge a gate and what the final impact is. But that's going to be an important step for us to see what that's like and see what we're able to achieve. And probably beyond that is what we're doing with our women's championships, taking them to Bunbury in October.
You just got my next question, so go, crack in.
Yeah, it's been something that we've discussed for a while, and partly the conversation. Our women's championships since COVID have been standalone in October, and there's generally that generally sits pretty well with our leagues. And but we've always looked at, well, why wouldn't we take it regionally, being a country championships, and spent a bit of time talking to South Australia with their country champs, and they actually do host. They've got a slightly different format to us, but they do host it in regional settings as well. So this will be a really big learning curve for us. The City of Bunbury have come on board, have been fantastic in partnering with us to help get the championships there, and we'll spend a lot of time working with the city and local stakeholders to try and provide the best experience for our 8 women's teams as we can. And based upon the feedback we get, we'll know if it's going to be a long-term proposition or if we need to reevaluate what we do in 2026. So
in women's footy's booming. That's sort of, from an outsider looking in, it seems to be what it is, like sort of from relative obscurity. Like now all of a sudden there's 8 teams coming to Bunbury, like the buy-in. Like I know like the Great Southern Footy League, they just said that they're going to keep the summer format for the women's footy. And again, from an outsider looking in, I like that because those grounds were packed. Like, it's good weather, which is rare in Albany, under lights. It was massive. But like, is women's footy just strength to strength, like with numbers and buy-in?
Yeah, it has been a huge growth area for the last probably decade, really. Southwest Footy League led the march initially in establishing their competition, and now we have 8 competitions around 8 senior leagues around the state.
So every league's sending a team then?
8 of our leagues do. So we have, we have 44 member leagues, junior, senior, right around the state.
Okay.
25 of them would be classed as senior leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Of those 25, we have 8 that have women's leagues. Now, there are obviously, you look across the landscape through regional and rural WA with the partnerships with netball and hockey, there are always some challenges around just establishing a female competition in some of those areas. But in our large regional centres, Albany, Geraldton, Bunbury, Esperance, Kalgoorlie, Broome, Karratha and Port Hedland, they all have women's competitions, Mandurah, which is pretty cool. I think we're slowly getting to the point where in each of those settings, and Great Southern is a prime example, they the clubs took on the youth girls teams this year, which was awesome to see, and the feedback was amazing. And the next challenge in Great Southern, like it is in some other areas, is to extend that pathway in the junior girls. So your little girl, my little girl, when they grow up, they have an opportunity to go and play with other young girls in just girls footy from day dot, which will be pretty awesome. And I think that's where we're at the moment. We're starting to see girls now in the Southwest in particular. They're the most mature pathway from a regional perspective, junior through senior, that are coming in to senior footy now, having played female footy since they're Oz kickers.
Yeah. Yeah, there's at like my little man's Oz kick, there's a girls team and they're fully and all the dads are getting in and the girls crack in and it's good to see. But what about similar to the Oval sort of debate? Is there something that, like, you given, not that it's much of a platform, but is there something that people don't understand? Like, sometimes you're like, oh, why the fuck don't they do this? Why don't we do this? Like, and then when someone explains it to you, you go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Is there something around the carnival that people generally don't have an understanding around, or like what's like would be the biggest complaint that you can sort of explain?
Nothing really jumps off the top of my head. I mean, probably from a traditional point of view, for a lot of people who may have no longer play but used to play country championships, the format's probably changed since then.
Yep.
It used to be a Thursday, Friday.
Yep.
So one of the challenges with grounds now is that we play on Saturday, where 15 or 20 years ago it used to be Thursday, Friday, have a day off Saturday, play Sunday in the finals.
So that's just clicked for me because that is what happened. Yeah,
that's right. Obviously, the challenge with that now is, financially, you're paying for an extra night accommodation. A lot of these teams will come together Thursday night or in Perth on Thursday to play Friday from a senior perspective, and then probably not have the Sunday night accommodation. So they have the Friday, Saturday. So financially, it's a little bit more feasible for them for these because it's a massive cost exercise.
Especially like the Pilbara, like they got to fly back or whatever
and not just financially, time.
Yeah.
Like time's money, right? So the time that people take to take off work, like now you can get away with potentially only taking the Friday off work.
Yep. And
then playing Friday, Saturday. So that's probably the one thing, like that's the reason why the change is. And the format too used to be, the senior format for the championships used to be you play luck of the draw, you play a full game on the Thursday, full game on the Friday, and then so there were 2 or 3 teams you didn't play in your pool.
Yeah.
So then, based upon who you drew, basically is essentially where you're going to get to from a final perspective. So we try to make it as even as possible. In our Division 1 men's and Division 2 men's this year, Division 3 men, everyone will play everyone in the same pool. So top 2 teams. So
the result is actually the right result, effectively.
That's right. Yeah, you should be getting the top 2 teams make the final based upon performance. Everyone can have an off game, and that might impact where it's at, but you've had the chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Division 2, with 6 teams, there'll be one team that everyone doesn't play from a qualifying perspective, so that may play into it because you touched off before on Division 2. That's going to be a really competitive division. Probably the best sort of that I've seen in the last few years. Arguably the most even across the board, I reckon it'll be.
It might be, but then Uppers just might blitz everyone.
They could well do, mate. And I mean, they've been looking through a bit of history. I think this is only the second year that they would have ever been in B section through the course, and they've been at 50 odd editions of the championships. We've had 59 all up, and Uppers have been in close to all of them. Not all of them, close to all of them. 56 of them.
Yep, 56 or 59.
And the last time they were in B section in the 70s, I think they won. So they've never been a B section team really. So it'll be really interesting to see, and I'm sure Yogi and the team down there are pretty keen to get back up to the top flight.
Yeah, I seen they were training early. Like they were training, and people haven't even announced their squads. So yeah, it sounds like that they got a fair bit of buy-in from all the fellas and all the teams. So they'll be up and about. And Glenver Bruggen's Great Southern got them round 1. Get in there, Great Southern. All right. What about with that? I know you had some interesting little snippets of info, like that was it. The Central Midlands and Eastern Districts are like the only two teams to be at every single carnival.
Yeah, North Midlands and Eastern Districts.
North Midlands,
yeah.
sorry.
So in their current format, so Mortlock's been at most, and probably before that, the Commanding Footy Association, I think, was in the first 3 or 4 years of the championships in the 60s, and so that obviously would have merged into Mortlock down the track. So, but in terms of the same name and entity, North Midlands and Eastern Districts, the only two leagues that have been in every single edition of the champs. So 59 years. Southwest of 58. I think they missed the first one. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think there's only been 8 teams ever win Division 1, and 5 of those teams are the teams that are competing in this year. So, yeah, they're probably 2 or 3 of the other ones. Uppers is another one that's not there. Eastern Districts in Division 2, they've won a couple.
Does Great Southern ever won?
Not Division 1.
I remember like early 2000s, like when Darryl was the coach of Royals, like they had half the state countryside. Like maybe that was Darryl's fault, but yeah, that's surprising. Hey, like given the demographic, there's always decent footy players, and yeah, Great Southern. So yeah, right. So only 8, and then half of them are there now. That's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, generally, for those unfamiliar with how sort of our grading works at championships. We go on a promotion relegation model. So you win your division, your lower division, like Great Southern did last year. They won Division 3. They'll go up to Division 2 now this year. Upper Great Southern were bottom of the table in Division 1, so they go down to Division 2 this year. So promotion relegation. But we have introduced the last couple of years, given we know the challenges that our leagues have, and it sometimes can be you might have a poor team last year for whatever reason, injury, unavailability, and you don't put the results in the park and you drop down. But then you come with a full-blown squad the next year and you go up. Like it is so dependent upon who you can get on the park naturally. So we do allow our teams to nominate which division they prefer to go in. So there have been a couple of cases in the last few years where a relegation hasn't happened because the team that was going to be in line for promotion hasn't wanted to go up.
Yeah.
So we've taken that into account. But generally, if it's no, we want to go where we should be, that'll be where it ends up. So
I get because this initially I had a little bit of a narrative in my head like uppers are just like because they're back in that league. It's like that means like the other teams might not win. And then I was like, yeah, but if uppers go up, someone comes back. Like if it's the same story. If it's a Great Northern, if it's Avon, like. If Uppers didn't, like another one of those teams comes back and it's the same story. Like they're all really, really strong leagues and the boys will be up against it no matter what. But yeah, I think that those games to get into that grand final are going to be an awesome watch. I'll be at that Freo. That's where I'll be watching that B grade one just because, I'm probably just the most invested in that league. But no, she'll be wicked, mate. What about you? We spoke on the phone, like there's been some outlier not leagues, I'm not sure what we call them, but you said like the Central Districts had come in. Like, is there anyone that's sort of flirting around the edges of putting a side in, or is there a side that you would be invested in trying to get back?
Oh, mate, I would love to see a Kimberley men's team come down.
Yeah.
I don't know what shape that would take, whether it be standalone West Kimberley, East Kimberley, Central Kimberley, or like it'd be great to have 4 leagues.
Yeah.
I think that would logistically be a real challenge and financially, but to have we've got a Kimberley women's team in the champs. I think they might have been the first team ever to defeat a Southwest in qualifying in the women's championships a few years ago now from memory. We've got a Kimberley Colts team back on the radar. It would be just remarkable, I think, to have a Kimberley men's team.
Have they ever sent one?
No, they haven't. Not that I'm aware of. We've had a Gibson Desert team come across. We've had a Central Australia team come across at different times, and obviously well and truly before when I was around.
Yeah.
So how that came about, I couldn't tell you. But I think we've had 51 different teams or team names,
entities
come the champs, and a couple of those are teams that sent two teams in the 1 year at one stage. So Eastern Districts, Uppers, Avon, Southwest have all sent a second side at various stages. And this is going back,
Yeah.
3-4 decades
But
now.
still, like, it's given the current climate, like, it's mind blowing that they had enough to send 2 like representative
It
sides.
is, yeah, it's crazy. Crazy.
Footy must have been flying out there back then.
Yeah, it just goes to show where the population was.
Yeah.
It is, right? So
Farms were smaller and
yeah. But so yeah, and you look through some of the other teams that have competed in the men's. A lot of leagues now that are probably even amalgamated or the like. Central Great Southerns and Southern Districts are no longer standalone competitions.
Mm-hmm.
They've sort of merged into, gone every which way. Great Southern, Ongerup, and also Uppers. Dampier had their own team. So when it was the
Yeah,
Dampier
right.
Footy Association, so I've touched on Central Gibson and so Central Australia and Gibson. Ravy had their own team.
Yep.
And that's not that long ago. That was in the 2000s at Ravy. Imagine a 3-team comp
yeah.
at the time, sending the team through. Gascoigne, even on reflection, Gascoigne were in the comp 3 years ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for a 3-team comp to send the representative team down to Perth is pretty cool.
Huge effort.
Pretty cool, yeah.
I'm just now you say that, I've obviously seen some footy when I was in Derby and played the footy in Kununurra. Like, I don't see if the Kimberley, like, particularly if East and West made a team, like, they're an A grade threat.
Oh,
Like,
mate,
well, now there's that many, like Garrick Whedon, Louis Broom, like, they're the dudes around Luma and Derby. Like, there's XFL players everywhere in Broome district, and then, like, I know Kurt Hunter from Wyndham, he would still stack up, and play really good footy, and I'm sure. Yep. Yep, there'd be all of them. Yeah, if they could get a side together, because one of my things here is has there ever been at like an East Kimberley, West Kimberley championship game?
Yeah, like I said before, they do the Colts.
But not the men's though.
I would dare say they've definitely done some men's stuff.
Yeah.
Some men's crossover stuff at times. When the environment's right and when all those leagues are really running well and on top of their game. And it would be an amazing spectacle. I was lucky enough to, when I first started with Country Footy WA, one of my first trips up to the Pilbara was to watch Pilbara to Port Hedland to watch the North Pilbara take on the West Kimberley side in a rep footy game. Which was an amazing spectacle. I think...
Does that still happen?
No, well, North Pilbara now playing there in the country.
Okay,
champs.
so that was instead.
That was instead, yeah.
Okay.
So and I think they used to go. The North Pilbara lads would go to Broome one year, which I'm sure they would have absolutely loved.
Yeah,
Or
mate, surely you'd be arguing for that game to be in Broome every year, not Hedland.
So they went up and the game in Hedland, mate, was Port Hedland Footy Club. I think West Kimberley would have been about 15 goals up at half time. Just a lightning footy.
Yeah.
But we talked before around the different styles of play, but even so, I think in the Kimberley they played 15 minutes flat, right? Quarters.
Yep.
North Pilbara played a bit longer, so as the game wore on, the North Pilbara boys started to run over the top, and I think they ended up winning by a goal.
Yeah, right.
It was an awesome spectacle.
Yeah, because even given that, like the Kimberley, those games are hot, like they and humid, like. But yeah, there's no way if they combine a West Kimberley and Broome, West and East Kimberley team, that's an A grade side straight away.
It would be, like I said, that would for me would be a remarkable feat. Like it would be true. I think then
I'd be watching every one of that games.
Yeah.
I would love to watch that.
I'm really proud of what our championships are, and I think Country Footy WA is. We literally, particularly our Colts and our women's, to have Colts kids and women everywhere from Esperance through to Kununurra come together to play is truly amazing, and to be able to replicate that in our men's would be sort of the cherry on top, I think.
Yeah, but still, like you say, it's nearly 3,000 Ks.
Oh, it's crazy, mate.
It's
crazy.
huge, like
Yeah.
But
and I think that is
the people do it, like the kids and the women's are putting the effort in, and it is a massive effort.
Yeah, and that's what I think gets undersold a bit in respect to country footy, though. Like probably, we're quite lucky footy that generally it's one of the cheaper games to play when you compare. You only have to see the news reports and all that on junior sport fees and all of that generally. But we also, the men, the families, the players, it's a massive undertaking just to go from point A to point B every week to play footy. So the cost is fuel and everything on top of that, which goes undersold. And you spoke about it in your Ben Cubbin around the players coming out of Perth and what that brings to the community. Like it's also it's a massive undertaking for those individuals to give up their time to travel 2.5 hours, play a home game.
Yeah.
Like it is, it really is. Like it is crazy, and we're incredibly lucky that people want to do it, and they do it.
Yeah, like the game's the smallest part of their weekend. Like,
absolutely,
it's a 2.5 hour drive. They're leaving home an hour before to get to Ben Carbon. I think they meet at the Como Hotel, so like they got to leave half an hour, 45 minutes. Then they do that, drive out there. They do the warm up runs at each little stop. Yeah. Then they play, stick around for presentations. Then do that on the way back. Get back, say 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, jump in the car, you go home. You leave at 8 in the morning, you get back at 1 a.m. for one game of footy.
Yeah.
But massive undertaking, mate. The next thing before I go, I don't know if you want to do the predictions, but I've done my predictions just to keep myself accountable here. I think the divvy fee. Are you going to jump in or you Barley's?
I'm happy to give some.
So the grand final, I think, will in Div 3 will be Lower Southwest versus Central Wheatbelt.
I'd probably I would have I'm probably thinking Esperance and Lower Southwest. Esperance have been pretty unlucky the last couple of years to come up against a really hot Great Southern side last year with only 21, 22 players compared to a few more for Great Southern. And the year before, they narrowly went down to North Pilbara. Both teams returning to champs at the time. Again, they're probably light on numbers wise. So they for a 4-team comp, they bat way above their average. Lower Southwest, it's been 6, 7, 8 years since we've had them in the championship, so it's awesome to have them back in. They have been floated anywhere from Division 1 to Division 2, so I would think they're, if they can bring any resemblance of a full squad to Perth, under the tutelage of Big Gavin Norrish, Big Goose out of Kojonup, they'll be really hard to beat. So I'd probably have Esperance in that mix. Central Wheatbelt, again, they fluctuated between B and C or 2 and 3, so they'll be around it as well. And again, I think right across the board, though, even Mortlock, mate. Mortlock, this is the first time they've been in Division 3 for a long time. So probably underselling them a little bit there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just got like one of the ones I've seen, Bailey Matera, when I went and watched Ben Cubbin marker, like he was class. Like he's really smooth. Like it never looks like he's at max effort, but he always moves really well. So I'm keen to see how Bailey goes. He'll be a gun. And then I don't know, Lower Southwest, Cole Smith from Koji, he's a ripper fella and he's a good footy player. So hopefully he has a big dip. And but I'll throw my hat there. Lower Southwest versus Central Wheatbelt.
I think you're definitely on the money there with Lower Southwest.
I think so.
They'll be red hot.
And what Div 2, I've got the grand final will be Upper Great Southern versus Eastern Districts Footy League. That's sort of who I think. I went through the fixtures here. I just think it's going to be a big ask for GSFL to get enough wins. Eastern Districts, I think they're pretty decent from the numbers that I've seen. Some of the players at Southern Cross as well. They've got a lot of decent players. So Upper Great Southern, Eastern Districts. What do you reckon?
I think Big Glenn will be dirty on you there, mate. Not back
mate, I've told him way worse than that in a message.
Pod sponsor and all.
Shout out Oakley Building Co.
I think uppers will be... Sorry, I'm trying to yell there over the plane.
Mate, the software takes it out and you sound like an idiot. But go.
I think uppers will be the team to beat. I think everyone would expect them to come out really hot. Eastern Districts, I like that tip to get to the final. Like they've got from what I understand, seen one of their squads come out. A number of the Southern Cross boys are there, and they're really hot. Won the flag last year, playing really good footy. A number of them are coming to Carnival this year too, and their Colts, which I'm sure a few of those players will butter up again. They were really strong out at Coolin as well. So I think they'll be around the mark. Central Wheatbelt, bad above their average so much. Central Midlands Coastal, I should say.
Yep.
And Ongrut for that matter. 5-team comps.
Yep.
They bat above their average so well. And Central Midlands come up against Great Northern last year in the final. Like it's going to be a really challenging. I think anyone can make the grand final, put it that way.
Yeah.
I do think uppers are you'd have to have them as favourites.
Well, that's what with Ongerup. When I went through the fixtures, I have Ongerup beating Great Southern, and then I was like, that's going to be one of the ones there. And then I was like, I think Eastern Districts gets them, but I don't know. GSFL, they've got everyone's got a tough draw, but I was just wondering. I know they have a few injuries, and
it comes down to who can come, right? Like
Yeah.
in my observations over the last, particularly since COVID, the team that can bring 25 fit and healthy players, at least 25,
or keep them fit.
and keep them fit. Like if you can roll out to that final on Sunday with 25, an extended bench of relatively fit fellas, you're in with a real shout. So we do see a couple of teams that get over the line, get over the final line and get in there, but hobble there. And Esperance, by their own admission, probably a bit like that last year. That'll be whoever can keep them, get them there one, and then keep them fit and healthy.
And then the Div 1, mate, I was like, rattled it off. I couldn't really pick anything. Like I wanted to put Avon in there, but I know Avon haven't had access to their best players given through injuries and some other things like that. But yeah, my tip for that final is Southwest versus Peel.
Yeah,
like it sounds like an easy one, but go through the fixture. It could be Great Northern, it could be anyone. But if I had to throw any coin in it, it'd be which I wouldn't. Southwest versus Peel is my tip.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty. You said before, a bit of a safe bet.
Yeah.
Goldfields, they were so unlucky a few years back, probably just prior or just after COVID. Just prior to COVID, I think they were humming and couldn't get over the line, and they probably struggled to bring their best, 20 of their best 30 to champs. So who they bring will really dictate how strong they are. We know Avon, they've been around the mark the last few years, obviously winning in 2023, I should say. New coach this year. That'll be really interesting with Tommy stepping down as to who comes along. And like you said, injury, for a league like Avon will play a real fixture in how they go. Peel, new coach, Ryan Henley, also coaches Centrals down there in Mundajong. I think they look like from what I'm hearing, they're going to have a really good squad assembled. I think they'll be, hard to say they'll be the surprise packet, but I think they'll be the big improver. I think going into last year, they were undefeated after day one last year and dropped both on day two.
Right.
I should have fact-checked that because I'll probably get proven wrong.
Nah, give or take.
It was something like that. So I think they'll be really keen to. They might have been even the year before that, but I think they'll be a big improver. And Southwest, they are the perennial powerhouse of the champs. They pretty much win it at least every second year. They were great last year. I think they'll be really hard to beat again this year.
Yeah, they're always good, aren't they?
Mate, yeah.
But it's a big league too.
It's a huge league.
Lots of teams.
So, and I think that on reflection, when I look through and so you try to judge how team, when you look at a Southwest Footy League, they've got 11 clubs. Yeah. So that's not just 11 senior clubs, but that's 22 senior teams plus Colts.
Yep.
Obviously the women as well. But so that's a lot of players in that pool. You go to Ongerup and they've got 5 and 5.
Yeah, and so
5 league, 5 reserves. And reserves is, for anyone who's had the luxury of playing down there, it's an amazing experience. But it is everyone from, those players that have long retired from league footy that are having a kick because they're there with their wives and their kids, and versus the kids because there's no youth footy that are coming up when they're home from school holidays and playing in the yellow shorts.
Yep.
That's a far different experience playing reserves footy there than it would be for rolling out for South Bunbury or Bunbury. And then you go to Central Wheatbelt where there's no reserves comp at all.
Yeah.
So, that's Ongerup, if you look in 2023, Ongerup were in Division 1, which, that's...
Nugget Bairstow just dragged them along, didn't he? But
he's
big old, they had a good side. But that's what, with that Southwest, I always think about. So, I just know Glenn, and that's what it did. They've got the 5 teams, so he's going to pick, say, 4 or 5 from each team.
Yeah.
Whereas, Southwest, they're taking 2 of the best of each team. They got 11. Straight away they're at 22 if they just take each team's 2 best. And there'd be 7 to 8 premium A grade type players. So No, not a luxury. It's just that's what you're up against. But like,
That's the nature. Like we're not. Like,
why it's so good when Avon win?
It's 100%. And
Like, how good would they feel?
And you look, and when you delve into those demographics of our leagues and the like, it really does give you a appreciation for how diverse our state is.
Yeah.
Like it is crazy. And you talked before around a Central Kimberley or a Kimberley side coming down and what that would be like. Like it just, again, it would have another whole different dynamic to the championships.
Yeah, that would be so electric if that happened, mate. All right, and to finish this one off, mate, yeah, my favourite thing in all of the country footy is the state country program. Obviously, would you head that up? Would you say you?
This year,
Yep.
this year.
So what's the dates for that?
Yeah, so our women played a few weeks ago now, very similar even to
Thornley
this,
or
a bit wetter.
Gosnells?
We played in Gosnells
Gozzies.
down there against the Perth Footy League. It
Got them.
absolutely tipped it down from the moment we got to the ground to well after we left, I reckon. And yeah, the women were absolutely amazing. Got up by a point in the end. In a
point.
really, amazing standard of footy in really trying conditions. So brilliant game. Where we've been pushing for a couple of years. We with our men's, as you're aware, New Holland State Country Program, we play Adelaide or South Australia annually. This year in Perth, 26th of July. We're playing at this stage after South Fremantle and Subiaco from a waffle perspective.
Okay.
Leadable Oval under lights. We have previously played at Optus Stadium. Obviously, there are so many challenges with curtain raises and getting access to the venue, and we've only seen it in the media the last couple of weeks regarding the SCG and the standard of surface. So we're very conscious that if we do get the luxury like we have in the past to get on, it is a luxury. So
It's a privilege.
It's a privilege, right? And we're lucky when we go to Adelaide. Since I've been involved with the program, we've been at Adelaide Oval, which for a player coming from Nugget, from Lake Grace, whomever to come over, to be able to go and play at Adelaide Oval, that's true. For me as an administrator, it's awesome. It's a privilege, right? So, unfortunately, not up to this year, but Leadable Oval, 1,000 lux sliding should be awesome. And that's our ambition with our women's program too. Like we're looking and we want to play like we do with South Australia, like we do with the men. So it hasn't and it won't happen overnight, but that's definitely our ambition with the program.
So, given that vision, is that like they play together on the same day, so you can absorb it separately, or you're not even that far down?
But we're not that far down.
Yep.
It'll really be when if it is South Australia, when it is South Australia, it'll be based upon what logistics can look like. Obviously, if we do back to back the games, the ability to play on an Optus or an Adelaide Oval's out the window. Which is okay. What it looks like we're not that far down the track yet.
Well, that was my thing, Optus. Like, I ran water that year, but like they're so. Everyone has their job, I guess, and they have to make sure the ground's intact.
Yeah.
But like, I ran the water. They asked me not even to run on the wing that was in the shade. Like, if you could try and play the game, or you can't warm up on that oval because the integrity of the oval is so important to them. Like, while you get to play on the ground, all of the warm up and all that was sort of inhibited somewhat by that. It does sort of take away a little bit from the game, given there's so many rules about where you can even walk on the ground. Then like. Remember even the benches were like on the sun side, and it was into the sun the whole game, just because they're trying to maintain that integrity of the ground. But yeah, Leaderville come to the party with lots of stuff. Hey,
a Subi Footy Club, mate. Yeah, and I spoke off the top around, talking venues for our country champs, but we rely so heavily on the relationship that our leagues have and we have with our waffle clubs. They play or are responsible for Claremont, as an example, in the Great Southern from a talent perspective and driving that pathway for young boys and girls now to play in the AFL. It is through the Claremont Football Club in the Great Southern, and every regional part of WA has that zone link, right? So whether it be to West Perth if you're in Bruce Rock, or whether it's Swan Districts if you live in Kerry Park, or if it's Subiaco if you're in Esperance or Kalgoorlie, you've got a link from a pathway perspective to a waffle club. So we do try to lean in on them where we can, and Subi Footy Club, we're quite lucky. Joey Georgiades, he's part of their staff there, and he was general manager of Country Footy for a long time. And
Okay.
Christian Dicton, who's footy manager, acting CEO, is through and through Country as well. So, like a lot of other WAFL clubs, they're fantastic people, that are steering the ship there. So we do lean in on them as much as we can, and we can't thank those clubs enough when we come to them and say, "Can you help us out?" That they generally, as much as they can within their current limitations, they're willing to help out.
Yeah, because there's lots of the state stuff happens there. The grand final also usually happens there for the Nutrient Carnival. And then, I was just thinking back, like I remember seeing Nathan Cracker play a state game there. So I was like, they've actually always made their oval available for that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so
they generally do. Yeah, they're all, and we, with our we want to play at the best venues. We want to give our, and that's why it is so challenging with securing venues at the moment. Is we want to play at the best venues, and we want to play at our state league venues. So that's always our ambition, and unfortunately, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be a possibility, though.
Done. All right. When will the state country squad get announced? Do you have a date, or is that just a bit fluid?
I'm pestering. I'll be pestering the selectors over the course of the championship weekend. They'll be out and about. For those unaware, one of the key selection criteria for our side is generally participation at champs.
Yep.
There are always a few exceptions to any rule, but that is generally the number one criteria. So we've been having chats on and off now for about 4 months since the start of the season, and that'll continue throughout the weekend of champs. And on the Monday, Tuesday after champs, we'll hopefully have a squad pretty much finalised. We probably won't. There's still a number round of club fixtures between our champs and that game, so I don't think we'll release it until the Monday the week of, but we'll probably start to contact the guys that are in the mix that week, just to make sure logistically that and fitness wise that they're good to go and in the mix. So new coach this year, Craig Otto, has taken over. Which is
he's
really
a Peel
exciting.
fella.
Peel, he's coached the Cavaliers from a Colts perspective at champs, and I think he's a life member or Hall of Famer with the PFNL. Mm-hmm. He's helped out coaching at a state academy level, East Fremantle. He coached Baldives the last couple of years in the PFL, so he's a footy lifer. Footy nuffy, probably. I'll love that on him. He loves talking footy. So great to see him have the opportunity to come on board to the program, and it's a bit of a. I think we'll see a number of new faces this year there's probably at least a third of last year's side that are not currently playing in country footy for whatever reason, whether they hung the boots up like Harry Taylor, or whether they've moved into the PFL or moved into state, or just not going to champs. So it'll be quite a high turnover this year of players, I reckon, which gives a great opportunity for some new guys to pull on the jumper.
Mate, I can't remember the kid's name, but not last year. Obviously, you in South Australia. The year before, he played fullback. He way undersized, long sleeve. I reckon he was from Southwest, maybe Bus or something like that.
Zach Pethybridge, I reckon.
I don't know if it was Pethybridge. There was like another fella. I'm not sure. I always thought that dude was incredibly impressive. I'll get his name and I'll give him a shout out. But I was thinking back to that. Yeah, I think because there was like a Pethybridge, I think he played like half back and he was a bit more solid, but there was like a long sleeve, just got his fist to everything. He's amazing. But I'll be at that game, mate. I'll do a Bring Your Boots special on the State Country program, and we'll talk some stuff. All right, mate, we're done. There's an hour and 15 minutes. Hopefully everyone enjoys it, and we'll see you next week at the Footy Champs, mate. See ya.
Yeah, we'll do. Thanks.
Oh, anything you want to cover off on?
No, just like I said, thanks for having me on.
No, sweet.
I know a bit of bias here, but I think it's the role that you're playing in promoting country footy through a different lens, through a different medium. telling different stories is pretty cool. So,
Mate, shout out really to the girls that were been wrangling the 5 kids in there for an hour. Thanks, girls.
Sure we don't have another hour?
Nah.